I bet is it your aunt was Ophelia?
My great-grandmother.
Your great-grandmother.
My maternal great-grandmother.
Okay. I bet she didn't put a lace bodysuit
No, she
and
probably
silver
didn't.
necklace under
No,
her
probably
under her
didn't.
overalls while she was being the fisherwoman.
Or sparkly kitten heels, you know.
There you go. There you go.
But that's what part of the Green Butterfly is about. Thinking
Right.
outside of the norm for your wardrobe and incorporating modern pieces, which this is a modern piece,
Right.
with old pieces. And I heard it said recently that when you quit dressing for men, you find your style. And I thought that was a very profound statement.
I do
And I
love
think it's
that.
unfortunate that women don't start doing that until much later in life.
Yeah.
They get over themselves and trying to impress other people, and particularly men or people of the opposite sex. And so they don't dress how they feel on the inside. They dress for somebody else. And so I love when people come in the Green Butterfly and I help them find what is your style. And it might not be anything in the Green Butterfly, but at least it makes them start thinking a different way about clothing and being a self-expression. So.
Right. Well, and caring about what they look like.
Yeah.
And maybe not for men, but for themselves, in that it makes them feel more confident because they
Yes.
have developed their own sense of style.
I mean, you can't walk out of the house looking like this if you're a not confident person.
That's true.
And bandanas are my signature mark, and I came across this vintage Whiting and Davis, which you're probably familiar with the
Yeah.
Whiting and Davis mesh handbags. They made gold bandana scarves and silver bandana scarves like in the 60s and 70s. And so I came across this recently, and it's too good
That's
to take to the
terrific.
store. So,
I love it. I love it. That should be a staple in your holiday wardrobe.
well, I think it will be. Today's the first day I've had it on. So.
Awesome.
And actually, I didn't even have it on when I left the house this morning. It came in my mailbox last night. And so I was pulling out this morning and opened the mailbox and got it out. And I was like, oh, yay, it's perfect. Because I was going to look for something at the store flashy, something blingy to go on with this. And I was like, perfect. That's exactly what I needed.
I love it.
And then
Looks
as
great.
I'm pulling away, the door to my mailbox fell open and did massive deep scratch all the way down my 6-month-old vehicle.
No.
Yes. So
Oh, I hate that.
now I've got to figure out how to get that buffed out.
It seems like you get to this point where you say, okay, I'm checking all the boxes. Like, I've got my new car now, and I don't have an older car. I'm not going to have any problems. I got my mail out of the mailbox. Everything is fine. I actually am going to get to work on time, and that's going to be great. And then your mailbox falls on your car.
Yeah.
It's like my Purple Nova story.
Here's your Purple Nova story.
And so I think it's one of those things. So you're always going to be behind. I think that's the moral of the story.
Well,
You
and the
never
lesson to
really-
me is I am so bad about trying to do way too many things in the morning before I leave the house. I go sit at the computer. I want to work out. Then it takes me time to try to figure out what I'm going to wear, and then I feed the cat. I do a load of laundry. My ADD takes over massively between 6 a.m. and 9:45 when I need to leave the house. And so if I wasn't in a hurry and I planned my routine better in the morning, I wouldn't be pulling out on 2 wheels, running late, and I would have noticed the mailbox door being open. So lesson learned.
Lesson learned. Well, my mailbox is pretty much broken from all of the boxes being delivered every day. Just massive amounts of online shopping. I've done a lot of local shopping too. Can't say I've left them out. But the boxes and boxes, it's crazy. It's taken over my life, and I have to stop.
And then you have to return.
And then I have to return about 50% of it.
I do think you had a great idea for our girls' Christmas party, though.
I did.
Share that with her.
Yeah, I thought it would be a great idea for our theme for our Dirty Santa party was everybody bring the items from Amazon that they haven't returned on time. Because how many do we all have?
I think it's
I have
gonna
a
be
garage
fabulous.
full of boxes that are going to go be donated unless we incorporate that into our party. I mean, things I've ordered 2 of that I didn't even like the first time, and I reordered them. So it's silly. It's really going to be, I hate to even call it a resolution in next year, but I've got to do something because it's a terrible habit. I will say that I probably inherited it from my mother, who was a very bad online shopper. And it's just the bane of my existence right now. But
We'll help you clear them out for Dirty Santa, because
Yes.
I'm sure you have some amazing things in your garage right now.
some are good and some are just, it's that instant gratification you get from Instagram now. And you've got that Apple Pay, and it's like, ooh, that looks fabulous. And all you have to do is double click.
Double click.
And it's yours. And it's like everything's autofill. It's so easy to do.
I've got to figure out a way for double click for the Green Butterfly.
Oh, you do? I mean, I know that businesses had to go up because of how easy
Yes,
they can
yes.
make it.
And
you know.
saving your card on file and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's data questions about that, or privacy questions rather about protection of the data. But I mean, so many businesses do that now. So I don't know why we're not doing that. That's a light bulb moment I just had for the store.
Yeah.
We need to do that for people.
I think you have to connect it to Apple Pay.
Okay.
Are you connected
We
to
are
Apple
connected
Pay?
to Apple Pay. Yeah, yeah.
Because that's how I do it. It just connects on my phone. I mean, I don't know about our Android phone friends, how they do it. I'm sure there's a similar type button.
Yeah.
But it really does it makes it too easy, really. I mean,
They always mess up our group text.
those Android users,
Yes.
don't tell them that. You put it here on the record now. They're very sensitive about their phones. They're very sensitive that then they don't care that they come out green on our phones.
And it kicks photos out all the time, and we'll have these great post-party pics that we're all trying to share.
I know.
And it gets rejected. So.
Oh, well. They're not going to change. They have their reasons.
Yep, you're correct about that.
I'm excited about getting ready for our Dirty Santa party. It's coming up soon.
Next Friday.
Next
A week
Friday.
from today. Oh, man.
I know. A week from today. Have you gotten your
I
present?
have my present ready.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I have
I'm
mine.
excited about it, too.
Well, this will come out after, so we'll have to regroup after the holidays and see how everybody did. But I thought we would do potluck again this year because that's fun when everybody gets to
It
bring
is fun.
something and see what everybody signs up for. Of
And
course.
you put so much effort into the witches wine tasting, which was incredible. And I know our folks saw that online.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll
This
take
is-
a little burden off of you for the
Well,
Christmas party.
you know what? It's not even a burden. It's really fun. I got all my Christmas put up this week, and that was kind of a load off. I'm covered in glitter still. It's kind of everywhere, but that's, the hazards of Christmas. It's not too bad to be sparkly. Been trying to get my holiday wardrobe together, and we were talking before we started about going to this little bar in Fondren area of Jackson called the Apothecary, which I would love to give them a plug because they have gone all out for Christmas.
I know the decorations, and they're so great at Christmas
So
time.
fun. And all the cute cups that they have to serve the drinks in, and all the drinks are named fun names.
The little Christmas drinks.
Yes. You posted a cute little social of you and your sisters there.
Oh, yeah.
Weren't
I
y'all
forgot
there
we did
dancing?
that.
Yeah, it
Yes,
was cute.
I forgot we did that.
Because we did that for your birthday.
And my mom commented, I need a picture of this. Well, Mom, you can print one. It's pretty easy, but I guess I'm going to print out some for her for Christmas. So I'll
That'd
take
be
care of that
cute.
for her.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be fun to print like the different ones, like the still photo, and then the ones where we're laughing, and the ones where we're talking, and do like a little, like a
Montage.
yes.
Yeah, I think I love that kind of gift. Last year we had taken a trip, Ellie and my dad and me, to Normandy for his 80th birthday, and so I've got to make a big photo book of that.
Oh,
We didn't take a
yeah.
trip this year. I'm trying to think. I haven't made a book, so hopefully we didn't. But I do have all of Ellie's graduation photo books that I made for her, and so that was fun.
Cheney doesn't have any of those.
Cheney's mom's been busy.
Well, and Cheney, being number 3, she doesn't have a lot of things that my older two have as far as scrapbooks and photo albums and.
How was
the
her
things I
visit
saved.
home for Thanksgiving?
It was great. It was
good.
great. She stayed moled up in her little den upstairs pretty much the entire time. And I can't believe she's only been back at school for a week, and she'll be home again this coming week. And she is going to work during the holidays. She told me she wanted to work because she needed to earn some funds to have some play money for next semester. So,
I'd like to sign Ellie up to work, and she would work for free. I'm saying that on the record. She'd love to spend some
we're going to
time
be
there.
purging the store and the storage unit.
Oh, good.
And so we'll have lots of tasks that they can do. New tagging, getting ready to bring out the spring merchandise. So
That's great. I think, Ellie is a little concerned about how she's going to spend the month home. We had thought about taking her skiing just to do something during that month, and then I couldn't really get a lot of traction on that. I think she wants to come home, and she loves being in her bed
Yeah.
and visiting and seeing her boyfriend and other friends. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to force it. We're just going to try to enjoy the holiday. And, there's always cooking to do and baking and gifts to make. And we'll be down in New Orleans several times, seeing our cousins and family. So it'll go by.
You have all your plans laid
Yes.
out already. I don't know what I'm doing Christmas Eve or Christmas Day yet. I know we're going to the hunting camp on the 27th and staying through the new year. But
Oh, good.
beyond that, I don't have any idea what our Christmas plans are.
Well,
I do know that one of our kids is coming home from Orlando the 23rd through the 26th. The one in Chicago is not coming home at all. He was here for Thanksgiving. The college freshmen both will be home next week. And then the two that are local, we'll see them the 24th or 25th maybe at some point. So we'll fit,
I mean, with all your moving parts, Serena, you kind of need a Venn diagram to figure out who's going to be
Where.
at the same place at the same time, if at all.
But that's just part of having a big blended family.
It is.
That's chaos, but we called it controlled chaos in our house. So.
That's right. I've always thought that the holiday season gives you a solid month to celebrate.
Yeah,
It really
sure.
does. Like, I don't have this big, I'm not married to it being just Christmas Day.
Exactly.
And we have different folks we want to visit with. And especially because it's usually just Ellie and me and my dad. And, we don't have a huge family. We have a lot of friends we like to visit with, that we count on certain, like my supper club group and our girls group and my cousin group. There's just different groups that we want to celebrate with. But I like to do it the whole month long, and that way you're not really pigeonholed into like having to do it December 25th.
I don't want to put that pressure on any of the kids to feel like they have to pick or choose.
Yeah.
And so I've always said I want to be the most flexible person during the holidays for y'all, because I never want you to feel like you have to choose between one set of grandparents or another set of grandparents, or one set of parents or the other set of parents. And several of them. Only one officially has in-laws right now, but we've got 2 weddings this upcoming year, so that'll add another layer of things, And so I've just always...
Well, you'll be the favorite, because that's the most important thing, is to be flexible when you have, I think, having been a kid and having to navigate different relationships and other people that you have to see and obligations, and being able to be flexible with your kids is really important to them. And knowing that it's not just that day that you're celebrating.
Right.
You're celebrating more than that. And plus it's fun, I think, to extend the time. More opportunities to wear shiny, sparkly things and eat good food.
And we play really silly games at my house, too. I have a new card game, and it's 80s and 90s song lyrics.
Oh, fun.
And it's like a trivia game for the song lyrics, so that's going to be our fun game this year.
Oh, I like that. Well, look, we're getting ready to welcome our next guest, Brooks Eason. And so I'm glad we had a chance to catch up before we show our audience our interview with Brooks. And I hope that people give his book out for Christmas.
For Christmas, yeah.
I remember everything.
Yes.
He did a great job for us.
It was a great read.
Yeah, he's had a couple of live readings at Lemuria and a place up in Tupelo, and so I hope his book is getting some traction during this holiday season.
Very inspirational person to pivot from his legal career to writing and publishing books.
Yeah, he's a great storyteller. Well, good. All right, we'll see Brooks soon, and you and I will catch up real soon ourselves.
Sounds good.
Take care.
Bye.
Good afternoon, Brooks. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you being here with us. Serena and I have both had an opportunity to read your new book. I remember everything, and we both were moved by it so much, and we're so excited to be able to have you on the podcast today and learn more about you and your life and your work. And so we appreciate the time you're giving us, and we want to hear more about your book and just what got you to where you are. First off, how does it feel to have the book in your hands?
I tell people, of course, I've had it now for 6 weeks, I guess, 8 weeks, something. Anyway, but I tell people, when you come up with an idea for a book and then you write a draft and then another draft and another draft and find a publisher and pick out a title, and then the first shipment arrives and you open that box and pull it out. It's like the coolest thing ever.
I bet. It's like Christmas Day.
Yes, yeah, very much.
Excellent. Well, do you remember the moment that you came up with this particular story?
No, I had the idea for the way the book begins and the way it ends. I didn't have anything in the middle. I knew it was going to be about 2 best friends. Then it starts with a tragedy, as you know, but the whole development of their friendship part, I didn't have any of that when I first thought about it. Mm-hmm. And when I initially wrote it, my first draft, I made 1 chapter in the present and 1 in the past, and I alternated all the way through. Then I decided that was a little too forced, and so Now it's the present, and then a lot of the past, and then back to the present. Somebody asked me, how long did it take? I don't know that either.
This was how many books for you? How many books does this make it?
7.
7. Lucky
7 with an asterisk, because Bedtime with Buster, my book of conversations with my dog, I had illustrations done for it by a guy named Bob Fugate from Atlanta. Grew up here, but he lives in Atlanta, and he did these magnificent illustrations. You know, I can't brag about me, but I can brag about him. And he would send them to me. And he'd talk about Christmas morning. He would send them to me by email, and sometimes we would be out at dinner, and I would just hand my phone around so everybody could see the illustrations of Buster. You know, Buster, a mixed breed dog, and there are more than 30 portraits of him. The illustrations were so great that I wrote a children's version. Bedtime with Buster, Conversation with My Dog, is an adult book. It's not inappropriate, but it's an adult book. But I did a much shorter, it took a year to write Bedtime with Buster and a weekend to write Bedtime with Buster Children's Edition.
So when was the first book written?
When it was written would span a long time.
Okay.
So my first book, Travels with Bobby, is about hiking trips in the mountains of the West with my best friend. He and I are going hiking in North Carolina next week. And I was a very full-time lawyer, and he and I started going on these trips out west in 1996. First year we went to Yosemite. It was kind of on a lark. The very first night that we camped together, we stayed in Washoe Lake State Park in western Nevada, and we were attacked in the middle of the night by the state park sprinkler system. And so Bobby's like the funniest guy in the world, and we went to Glacier National Park, and then we went to, and so the book is about our first 5 trips. 6 trips, 5 trips, it's been a long time. Mm-hmm. So I would come back, and that would be my, I would talk about it. I didn't have to think about anything else for cocktail parties. I just, here, let me tell you about, because we had all these funny things happen to us, and we saw these magnificent places, and, one year Bobby fell and busted his head open in the middle of the trail, and we had a doctor with us, and the doctor sewed him up. He had a suture kit, but no anesthesia. And so Bobby drank some of my scotch and got sewed up on a picnic table. So we had stuff like that every year. And so after about 3 years, I decided I wanted to write it. But the writing of it took a long time and covered the time in my life when I changed law firms and changed spouses. And so it wasn't, I started writing it in 98 or 99, and it was published in 2015. Mm-hmm. So that was my first one.
So you had about 40 years you practiced law, and so there had to have been a lot of ideas in your law practice that probably resurfaced in your writing as well.
I wrote this book about stories from my legal career, and I like to write, as a litigator, I wrote a million briefs. And being a litigator, what you do is tell stories. Whether you're writing a brief or trying a case, you're telling a story. And sometimes I would teach younger lawyers how to write better briefs, and one of the things I would tell them is it doesn't have to be boring. Mm-hmm. Just because it's a legal brief that's going to the court, it doesn't have to be boring. You can actually make it interesting. And so I think I probably got better at writing through all of that. Didn't do much creative writing until I wrote Travels with Bobby. Mm-hmm. I wrote short stories for my parents when I was in law school and too poor to buy them Christmas presents. I gave them short stories for Christmas.
That's an amazing gift, though.
Yeah, and I think I still have one of them, but the other one I lost. Who knows where it is.
So would you say the creativity is a parallel in your legal writing and now your creative writing? Because you were able to weave some creativity, or try to teach younger lawyers how to weave creativity into their legal briefs? Or do you see any other parallels between legal writing and creative writing?
I think probably, a lot of lawyers are they're not very creative, and I think they can do better if they are. I would do like a lunchtime seminar about writing briefs to these young lawyers, and I would tell them, imagine that you're a clerk for a federal judge, and imagine that you just spent the weekend at Bonnaroo, and imagine that you're not feeling that great, and you pick up a brief to read it. And I would give them 2 different briefs, and one would start out the way a lot of lawyers start out briefs, first page of saying absolutely nothing, and then one that catches your attention from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I said, which one? And so I don't know if that answers your question at all.
Yeah. What about your courtroom work? Do you see any parallels where you're able to bring that into your writing, with the exception of the one book where you just focus basically on your legal career?
Probably, but I can't name them. I mean, I had lots of fascinating cases along the way that had an opportunity to be creative.
Well, in law practice, it's more about persuasion, and in the creative writing that you do now, it's more about storytelling. But there's got to be, a little bit of both.
I think so. I mean, I think a good story is persuasive.
Mm-hmm.
And, some people, when they tell me about my books, they say they're very easy to read. They're not, I don't use big words. I don't know many big words. Carrie, my wife, because of her family situation, she couldn't go to college. But when I come across a word that I've never seen before, I say, what does this mean? And she always knows.
She knows it.
She always knows. Yeah, she's highly self-educated.
Yeah.
But, I think there is a degree of when I was writing briefs, I felt the same way. I don't want it to be hard to understand. I want to make sure that this is clear.
Yeah.
And I think, my books are, I'm not going to say they're good or bad, but I think they're not hard to read. I mean, y'all have just read some that's not, it's not like Faulkner where you get to the end of the paragraph and you feel like you have to start over.
Exactly.
Brooks, we touched on a few minutes ago about your transition from full-time serious lawyer to maybe not so full-time serious lawyer. What spurred that on?
I had a stroke almost exactly 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years at the end of January. They thought I had a brain tumor, which is something that'll get your attention. Mm-hmm. The doctor showed me this slide on the MRI, and it was some big something in my brain. And I said, what's that? And in his poor bedside German manner, he said, in all likelihood, it is either cancer or an infection. Cancer is much more common and you have no sign of infection. So I was at University Hospital and they did all these tests and I didn't have a brain tumor and I recovered from the stroke. But not long after that, negotiated a deal with my law firm to make less and work less and started writing more.
And how long had you been practicing at that point?
Let's see, that was 10 years ago, so 33 years.
Before you had your stroke, had you thought about an end game as far as your legal career was concerned?
I knew that if I could afford it, I didn't want to keep working at the same pace that I had been for a long time. I was a litigator. It's very consuming. It's extreme, it can be exhilarating, but it's extremely stressful. And the older I got, the more the stress bothered me. And there's really nothing at all stressful about writing a book, at least so far. I mean, figuring out what the next thing to say is, but that's not as bad as losing a lawsuit.
So when you were writing the first book that took you some period of time to write, were you writing it with the intention of it being a book that you would publish one day?
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah, from the beginning.
Okay. And did you know how to go about doing that? Did you know how to write a book or how to go about getting it published?
Not at all, and it's completely changed since then. You know how long ago it was that I started writing that book? I went to the Eudora Welty Library to do research.
Oh, wow.
Imagine. I named 2 hamsters in the book Laverne and Shirley. And I thought, well, they can't be Laverne and Shirley unless Laverne and Shirley were already on TV then. I looked it up and they were.
So that's verify that.
That's who they are.
Interesting.
Yeah. Before our third trip, I was already thinking about writing it. And I took a portable dictaphone. So I already had that in mind. And when I started writing about it, I had a book in mind. Knowing how to get a book published, I knew absolutely nothing about that. And my first book was self-published through a company called Lulu Press. And then I found this small independent publisher in Nashville, and they have done all but one of my books since then. My book that's a novel based on my grandfather's life. My grandfather, who was a Methodist preacher and district superintendent in the second half of his life, and I discovered, which led to me writing this book, that in the first half of his life, he was a felon and a fugitive and served time in the state penitentiary in Pittsburgh and lied about his age by 14 years. He was an interesting man. And I thought it had real potential, so I got a bigger New York publisher for that. It turned out it really didn't have bigger potential.
You mentioned something about you took a dictaphone to record some stories. Do you use that when you write now? And is that something you carried over from legal practice? Or do you sit down and actually write it out?
I write it, and I can't type. I type all my books and I never learned to type.
You one finger type?
Yeah.
No, you
Well,
don't.
two. But I don't know that if I could type like the wind, I don't know that I would write any faster because I'm doing the thinking at the
Yeah.
same time. And I'm pretty good with two fingers.
Yeah. That's probably the adrenaline from the creativity coming
Yeah.
out.
And I think my books are not all that long. The new book's the shortest one, but my books in total are more than 500,000 words. And I think that's a lot of words to type with two
Yeah.
fingers.
So on the recent book, it comes out with kind of a gut punch in the very beginning of it. The hook, it totally caught me off guard with the ending. But when you sat down a while ago, you said you knew the beginning and you knew the ending, but you didn't know what the middle was going to be. Tell us about how maybe the first book, Travels with Bobby, I see some resonance maybe in the middle part of I Remember Everything.
Oh, yeah. Most of the places, so a lot of the middle of this book involves outdoor adventures that the two main characters take. Sam and Jeff grew up in Jackson, born in 1960, and they become best friends the day they meet. The summer they turn 8, I stole that story from a good friend of mine who met his lifelong best friend the day after his family moved to Waco, Texas when he was 6 years old. And his mother kicked him out of the house and said, go find somebody to play with. And he rang the right doorbell. And so that's how Sam and Jeff meet in the book. And so the middle of the book is a lot of outdoor adventures. They go on 2 great road trips, one when they're 18 and one, I guess about 30 years later, they take their teenage sons on. And nearly everywhere that they go, I've been. And a lot of the places I've been with my friend Bobby and some with other people too. So that's how the middle of the book came together.
I don't want to tell the listeners the real story because it's such an interesting weave of facts and getting you to the end result. But the premise of the book and the character, Jeff's character, what happened to him, was that something that you were familiar with before you wrote the book, or was that a story that you stole from somebody else, or how did you come up with that twist?
Well, you got spoiler alerts and not.
Right,
And,
I know.
This is not really much of a spoiler because it happens in the very beginning of the book, so I don't mind sharing that. You were kind of dancing around it, I won't.
No,
So,
it's up to you. It's your book.
Yeah. Yeah, we debated about that. So in the first chapter of the book, Sam Thompson, upstanding guy, newly elected president of the Mississippi Bar, gives a speech at his investiture banquet, drives home, he's on the unlit Natchez Trace with his wife, Evelyn, and hits and kills a man on a bicycle. He's not drunk, but he's had a couple of drinks. Evelyn persuades him to leave the scene. He's very anguished about it because he's a stand-up guy, but she says, there's nothing we can do to help that poor man, but if you stick around, it could be terrible for you. Pretty good argument. He leaves. And then the next afternoon, he learns that the man he killed was his best friend, Jeff Freeman. So that all happens at the beginning, so that I'm not spoiling too much. It's not in the marketing materials because my publisher, don't do it. But so he would be against this, but he's not here. Anyway, there's a man here in town. I've got 2 good friends, Roy Liddell, Tommy Lewis. They're my music, camping, hiking, campfire buddies, along with Bobby. And they're both lawyers at Wells Marble. And they had a law partner who was killed on a bicycle at night in a hit-and-run accident a few years ago. His name's Bob Walker. That gave me the idea for the story.
When you began ruminating about the story, I want to ask you about how you come about those ruminations, how you begin to figure out that you've got a story to tell in a book. Did you know what the end was going to be at the time?
Yeah, not precisely, not all the details, but I knew, the gist of why Jeff was on the trace riding his bike at night. So I had that, and then, the beginning of the book, the middle of the book, I wanted to make that, these are 2 great guys who love each other, and their stories spanning from 1968, for 55 years, from the day they meet until the day Jeff dies. It's 55 years. One of the stories is Sam's in trial on the coast, and his wife Evelyn goes into labor 6-7 weeks early, and he's in trial with his phone off, and his buddy Jeff has to step in and threatens to name the child something terrible, and while Sam's speeding home on Highway 49. So I didn't have that. It was fun to make up.
Yeah.
The judge down on the coast that was trying that case, is that a judge we all know?
I don't know if you know him. I certainly do.
I think I did.
The late Walter Jacks.
Yes.
I had a whole bunch of cases. I represented Ingalls Shipyard. I practiced law far more on the coast than I did up here in my career. Represented them for 30-something years.
In the book, when Sam has to deliver Jeff's eulogy, is that something you've experienced personally already?
Complete creation.
But you probably envision at some point in your life you may be able, or not be able to, but you may be called upon to do that for a dear friend. And so maybe at this age in life, we're all kind of thinking about that and what the end is going to be like, who's going to stand up and speak for us. And so maybe that's kind of where some of that came from.
Yeah, I've never given one and don't know if I could. I mean, I'd get too emotional. I don't know.
Even with all your years of courtroom experience, you don't think you could stand up?
That's different.
Yeah.
It's kind of different. One of my best friends from law school gave this wonderful eulogy for his father, who was the president of UNC Chapel Hill and a fine, fine man. And I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I've shared it with a whole bunch of people because it's on YouTube. And I just told him, how did you do that? I mean, I couldn't a million years get up and talk about my daddy like that without having a breakdown. But he did.
When you undertook to write this book and you were getting into the characters and developing the Sam character and the Jeff character, how does that process work for you with works of fiction where you completely have to come up with a character profile for each one of these men whose life spans 55 years? How does that work for you? What's that process like?
Well, this is my first true novel. The book about my grandfather had to be a novel because he died in 1942 and I had to make up a bunch of stuff, but I had the core story. But, how I developed these guys, and so I've asked a couple people, who do you think I'm more like? I'm more like Sam, more like Jeff, and I don't know which one I'm kind of...
A mixture of it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in between, but I knew I wanted Sam to be like focused, type A. I mean, great guy and a fun guy, but workaholic. And, Jeff chews him out in the book a couple times for being a workaholic. And he deserved it. And he knew he deserved it. But I wanted Jeff to be everything comes easy to him. He's happy-go-lucky. He's the ladies' man. But a great, great guy. I mean, they're the only villain in the book, and he's just a cameo villain, is the funeral director.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I wrote in the book about the villainous funeral director was that he, in his office at the funeral home, he had returned checks on the bulletin board. And I went to a funeral home and saw that. And I thought, man, if that's not salt in the wound.
Oh, wow.
Mama died and your check bounced and we're going to show the world.
Oh, man. Mm.
Did you think that when you were leaving the practice of law, I know that you had the stroke and that's what instigated your transition. Did you think that being an author or a writer or exploring that as a new career would be in your future?
I knew I would write more. I knew I wanted to write a book about my adoption because it's a remarkable story. And I knew I wanted to write that. But so I learned so I was adopted as an infant from New Orleans in 1957, and I always knew I was adopted. I had the best parents there were, never looked, never would have, and then these lawyers came looking for me because I was a potential heir to my biological great-grandfather's fortune. And I just would have gotten a piece of it, but even a piece of it I think was going to be a lot. He had oil and gas properties all over the country, and he owned the only facility in the Western Hemisphere that made fluoride for toothpaste. A lot of teeth. So I knew I wanted to write that book, beyond that, I didn't have any plans. I wasn't thinking this will be my encore career. But I like it. I like it a lot. And so I don't know. I've started one book, which would be a comic novel set in South Louisiana. Maybe I'll do that. I thought about writing this horrifying true story about a friend of mine, one of my hiking buddies, who was murdered in 2020, the week before the pandemic curtain came down. He was a chiropractor in northern Idaho, and he was about 20 years younger than I am. And he was on the phone with his wife at the end of the day, and all of a sudden he said, "Al, I think I've been shot," and he fell over dead. And for a time, they didn't know anything. And, I wondered if it could have been a hunter, but he was on the ground floor office, and there was a building right across the street, so it had to have been somebody right there. A few months later, the other chiropractor in town confessed.
Oh my goodness.
No kidding. Killed the competition.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
He said he was just trying to scare him, but shot him in the back and died instantly.
Oh my goodness.
4 kids. And I think it's been on Dateline. And I thought about, I know them all.
Yeah.
And I thought about writing a book about it, but I don't want to be sad.
Well, in this book, you have a lot of musical references, and I know your love for
Yes,
music.
I do.
Do you listen to music when you write?
No.
No.
Never.
You write in silence.
Yeah. When we bought the house, you've been to our house. When we bought that house, there's a desk in the den. That was going to be the place. That was going to be the place. And I haven't written a single word at that desk in the den. If the temperature is between 55 and 85, I'm on the screen porch. And if it's below 55 or above 85, I'm on the kitchen counter. So I often don't write in silence because I've got birds, but I don't listen to music.
Do you have a particular schedule or what keeps you disciplined to get the book done?
That assumes that I'm disciplined. I guess I do. I rarely write in the morning. In the morning I sit and have my coffee and read the news and get depressed and then walk the dogs 3 miles every day. And some days I'll work 4 hours and some days I'll work none. Just depends. But it's almost always after lunch.
Was that how you were in your practice? Were you more of an afternoon, nighttime lawyer, or were you the early bird and worked hard at morning hours and up through lunch?
I was always at my best early, but I was usually asleep then. When I was in trial, I would get up at 5 and I could do a lot more between 5 and 9 than I could do between 5 and 9 the night before.
Yeah.
How did I know many of your former law partners, and I know that you remained friends with many of them, and I enjoyed the tales that you told in your book, Trigger Warning, that's right. That makes a lot of sense given the nature of the book. How did you feel your efforts to write books were received by your former colleagues?
I don't know how many of them have read them. Some have. But I was in several law firms and people I'm still close to, and they've read the books, and one of them's reading this now.
Sometimes I feel like family and friends who are close to you, when you're going through a transition in your life, they may or may not be as receptive to it as maybe strangers might be, because they've sort of got an idea of how you fit into their life. And so by doing something different, it kind of has a different impact on them. They may not be as supportive as you might think because they're family and friends. I don't know whether or not you felt one way or another that you got a lot of support from your family and your friends to make a transition in your life from active lawyer to not so active lawyer.
Well, I certainly got a lot of support from Carrie, my wife.
Sure.
The others, they were fine, but I wasn't asking their opinion.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to decide, so I did it.
Well, there's a freedom in that. And
Oh, yeah.
there's a freedom in stepping away that you don't have when you remain.
Mm-hmm.
So embracing that and trusting that it's going to be different and be unknown, but also allows you to have more space to be who you are and who you want to become.
Yeah. It would be, I say that writing books is not stressful, But if I had to depend on this to eat,
Yeah.
that would be a whole different thing.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, after I had a stroke, I talked to the guy who managed my retirement money. And I said, I'm thinking about going part-time. Can we afford that? And he said, yeah, you can afford to do that. And I said, if you're wrong, we're going to move in with y'all. So maybe you want to run the numbers again? Yeah. But it's a crapshoot if you're going to make any money. I mean, I haven't made money to speak of on any of my books. And sometimes I'll read a book and I'll think, golly, mine's better than that.
But that's not why you're doing this. I mean, you're doing this to explore your own desire to put something creative out in the world.
Yeah.
Is how I've interpreted what you've
Well,
said
I do
about
it
making the
because
transition.
it's fun.
Yeah.
I do it to amuse myself, and hopefully it amuses other people too.
Other than the financial part of retiring or cutting back on your full-time active practice of law, were you worried at all about sort of your status to the world and your ego in being a trial lawyer and being a litigator and dressing up in a suit every day and sort of that, what would happen to that persona?
No. No, not at all. I started, I went part-time, and then the pandemic came, and I just kind of trailed off into nothing. I mean, one of the things that I put in the trigger warning was, am I retired? I'm really not sure. So it was a very gradual thing. I wasn't wrapped up in the whole persona. I mean, I was very driven when I was working hard, and more like Sam than like Jeff. I worked hard, but it wasn't. And I think a lot of people, especially men who are married to their careers, they're afraid to retire.
Yeah.
I see these guys who couldn't possibly need the money, and they're still going at it. I liked being a lawyer, but gosh, it's so stressful, and I don't miss it. I miss some of the people, but I'm glad I'm not doing it now.
It's such a big part of anybody's career, not just being a lawyer, but the identity that you develop in your career, that you spend all this time getting an education for and trained for and learn and become proficient at doing, and then all of a sudden you don't have it anymore. So many people find that they get depressed because that really was their identity. And making that transition, whether you have to do it because of health reasons or you just choose to do it because it's become so stressful, or financially you don't have to go do that anymore. I feel like a lot of people get lost in that transition. I've been practicing law now for 35 years, and a big part of my life has been devoted to practicing law and getting dressed up.
But you told me you were only 39 years old.
Well, I was a child prodigy. They let me go to law school super early. But a lot of the hesitation, not just for me and for Serena, but friends of ours who are also sort of at this stage of our life and thinking about the future, is what do we do with that part of us that we are so closely identified with, being a professional, being out there in the world and having some respect at what we do? How do we fill our time and our lives without that? And I mean, obviously you've been able to fill your life with some wonderfully creative things and things that you just enjoy doing, walking your dog and being with your wife and having your house concerts and those types of things. So that's wonderful. And it's wonderful that you don't miss it, because I think I kind of wonder, like, will I miss it if it's not there anymore? I kind of think I won't.
It's hard to know, isn't it? It's hard to know
is
till you're
hard
on
to
the
know.
other side. Yeah, I thought maybe I should come out of retirement to teach a seminar on how to be retired, because I'm really good at it.
Yeah,
I'm good at it.
that's
And,
excellent.
You have that line in the book, lawyering was about control, but writing is about surrender. Were you afraid of surrendering and losing control, or did you welcome that?
I would say I welcomed that.
And surrendering to the unknown, what it's going to be like when you're no longer this persona that gets dressed up and is required to bill hours and answer to somebody else, a client or other partners and all.
Yeah.
It can be a little scary.
Yeah.
Because it's a significant change.
And I think it scares a lot of people.
And it scares a lot of people so much that they don't ever do it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I graduated from Duke Law School in 1982, and I've got about a dozen buddies, and we go on a golf trip every year. The last 3 or 4 trips, I got a bad shoulder. I hadn't even played. I just go and walk the course and don't hit a bad shot or a good one and just have fun with my friends. But this year, a guy who's a very accomplished litigator in Atlanta, he's just succeeded in getting a guy off of death row in Louisiana because he was innocent. Yeah. Anyway, great guy, very fine lawyer, very accomplished. And he's not retired. He's my age. He's 68. But he wanted to meet with several of us on our golf trip who are retired to talk about it. It can be scary.
Like you mentioned earlier, it's particularly being a litigator, the fast pace, the demands, the reactive mode all of the time. If that's how you've lived for so long, and then you have this leisure time, you don't really, it's like stepping away from the billable timesheet. Have I been productive today if I don't have this timesheet to show for it? I think a lot of people struggle with that. I know I did when I left the billable world to do something different. It took me a while to make that transition and realize at the end of the workday, yeah, I did actually accomplish something, even though I don't have this sheet that shows I accomplished something. I think that's hard for a lot of people in our profession.
When I filled out my last timesheet, I did not have any regrets whatsoever about that.
Oh, man.
There was no looking back after I filled out that last timesheet. That was one of the reasons I left it.
One time we had a debate at the office one time. What percentage of your income would you be willing to give up not to have to record your time?
Yeah. I was ready to leave that behind and roll the dice on that one. Luckily, it worked out okay. But it seems, Brooks, like your close friendships, you seem to have many of them, and you talk about them in your books, and even today you've been sharing some friendship stories with us. Do you think having those friendships in your life during this transition phase helped sort of ease any kind of reticence you may have had about retiring? And
Not a lot, because a lot of this was going on during the pandemic. I was hanging out with my wife and my dogs, but it was good for me. It wasn't hard. I didn't need to be, mentored along. I've always kind of had a lazy streak, and this has played into it nicely.
what about the role of friendships in your life? I mean, you clearly had some long friendships in your life. How do you think that has sustained you in your 68 years?
Oh gosh, I do. I've got wonderful friends, and I think that's probably why I decided to write this book. This book's about a terrible tragedy, and it's about great adventures, and it's about the music of John Prine, my favorite songwriter, but it's more than anything, it's about a friendship. And these two guys who are totally devoted to each other, and they give each other trouble, as hopefully you do to your best friends. And I've got, I have wonderful friends. Some of them have changed over time. I got a divorce, and then I remarried and changed law firms and moved to a different house in a different neighborhood. But, we love our friends and spending time with them. My buddy Bobby, who's my best friend, who lives in Southern Virginia now, he still has property on the coast, and he's got to go there the end of next week. And so he's driving, he and his dog, and I'm going to fly to Asheville, and we're going to spend 4 nights. We're not camping, staying in a cabin. Staying in a cabin. I can still stay in a tent, I do, but we're staying in a cabin. We'll go hiking and have campfires, which are one of my favorite things, so it'll be good.
Do you think that many men have the kind of relationships that you've had with your best friends, as well as what Jeff and Sam experienced in your book?
I think I'm more blessed in that than the average person. Mm-hmm. And I do think that one of the problems we have in America now is that there's not as much of that as there used to be. People spend their days buried in their screens and don't have the sorts of relationships. A lot of these crazy murderer guys, I think they are, more than anything else, they're just detached. Mm-hmm. They don't have good friends. They're not members of clubs. They don't go to church. They're not in organizations. They don't have buddies. They're not going camping. Yeah. There needs to be more of that.
One area that I applaud you and Carrie for is the house concerts that y'all do. I mean, y'all are proactive in engaging in relationships and friendships and providing an atmosphere that fosters that. I mean, that's how you and I met. I was invited by one of the lawyers at one of your firms at one time, who's a dear friend of mine.
Who was that?
Laverne.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I met you.
Okay.
Came to one of your house concerts by invitation through Laverne. and then was thankful to stay on the list and have been back when it was, a good time for me. And so I appreciate that. But I applaud y'all because y'all invest in people. Y'all invest in relationships by doing things like that.
Yeah, we love those house concerts.
So what was the genesis of the house concerts? And if you could just tell the listeners what we mean by that when we
Okay, yeah. Sometimes I tell people we host house concerts, and they say, "What does that mean?" I said, "Well, it's pretty self-explanatory." So Carrie and I have gone a bunch of times on a music cruise called Cayamo, Cayamo, and it's Americana music, the kind of music we like, and it's great. We went every year until the year that Carrie got seasick, and that was the end of that. But we heard from other people on there who were music nuts about hosting house concerts. And we just talked about it and said, that might be a fun thing to do. We were empty nesters. We weren't in this house, but we were in a house with a open floor plan and room, and might be a fun thing to do. And then one night we went to Underground 119 downtown. This was in its former life, and saw this folk duo there, Clay Parker and Jody James from Baton Rouge. And Carrie had a little too much wine, and they took a break, and Carrie said to them, "We want y'all to come play in our house for our friends." And I said, "Well, I guess we must." And so they came 10 years ago, and it was great fun. And I sent an email around to the people who'd come and said, "We might do this on a fairly regular basis. Who's in?" And about half those people have moved away now, but they all said they were in. And so the one we had Saturday night was our 53rd. Sometimes the artists hear about us, and I get inquiries from them. More often, it's just somebody I like, and I send an email, "Hey, want to come?" They almost always stay with us, and Carrie's the hostess with the mostest and a spectacular cook, so she feeds them well, and we've gotten to be good friends with a bunch of them. It's really, I tell people, if you love music and you want to do something, it's a great thing to do.
And once you get accustomed to seeing music that way, it's very hard to go to big shows.
Oh God, yeah, we're totally spoiled. Going to a bar now and being there where they're yelling at somebody's yelling at the football game on the TV screen above the bar. It's, it's all about the music, and it is great fun. I told somebody the other night, before I read this excerpt from the book, I said, when I get to the pearly gates, I'm not going to say I won a few lawsuits. I'm going to say I hosted house concerts. Because it really is. Every time we have a show, I try to make a point of looking around at all the faces. And we've had so many great people. It's fun.
I enjoyed the one that I went to. It was a great experience, and it was kind of in my era of saying yes to things that I may not have made time to do before. So now I'm glad that I'm on the email list. So I hope to attend more of them. So now that you've got this book in your hands, you've opened up the box of books and you got your Christmas present, what's calling to you now? What's next?
I don't like marketing. I like writing. And I like revising. Some lawyers don't like, I like taking something that's okay and making it good and then making it better. And then the epilogue, I bet I tweaked 30 times.
Oh, wow.
People say, well, that looks like it comes easy. It's not that easy. So in the past, I've been bad to have a book finished, published, do a few little things, start writing another one. And I'm trying to not do that this time and trying to focus on this book and doing things like this.
What would you say is the biggest lesson you learned in practicing law that you carry over into writing books?
I think probably just having the discipline to work hard, to realize there's always room for improvement, which in the beginning of the book. So I think just looking at it one more time, looking at the brief one more time, looking at the manuscript one more time.
If you could go back, this is a question we like to ask, if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, maybe when you were in your late 30s, early 40s, you've been practicing law for a while in the courtroom, what would you go back and tell that Brooks about what really matters in life?
I probably would tell him not to work so hard and tell him to take more time to do other things So my publisher asked for a quote to put in the press release about what you would hope that people would take away from the book, and the quote I made up. I get to make up quotes for me. So the quote I made up was that people would spend more time doing things they enjoy with their friends and less time staring at screens, which is something I need to tell myself because I'm terrible. You know, that iPhone, I can't imagine what life was like before it.
That's a beautiful quote, and you just answered the question I was about to ask you.
I really wanted to read your book. I knew about it before we even scheduled this. I told you we were Facebook friends, and I saw that it was coming out. And so when I sat down to read it, it was almost like homework getting ready for our podcast. But it was a nice vacation from my phone, a vacation from my computer. I always find that now, and I have to constantly tell myself, I've got to get off the phone. I want to hold a book. I want to read a book, and I always enjoy it. And I do agree with you. I think as a society, we are just glued to our phones and the instant gratification of whatever is new on the screen, and it just takes up so much time. And holding a book and reading a book, it brings such pleasure. So I appreciate you putting this out there and allowing us to share in the pleasure you had in writing it, and know that we enjoyed it and got pleasure out of holding it and reading it.
Well, thank you. It's fun for me. I'm glad you liked it.
We did.
We have one final segment, and we call this rapid fire. And so we will give you a phrase, and your immediate thought of what that pairs well with should be your response.
I'm ready.
All right. So John Prine on the radio pairs well with.
A handsome Johnny. Okay. I can see you don't know what that is. You don't have a very good poker face. Handsome Johnny, I think, is a drink that he invented.
Okay.
I think. But it was certainly his favorite drink, and it's vodka and ginger ale with a sliver of lime. And I've started drinking Handsome Johnnies. I had a few at the house concert. So
Sounds like a good pool drink.
probably both kinds of pool. Shooting or lying beside.
Yes.
Yeah.
A blank page pairs well with.
An active imagination.
How about a long day in court pairs well with?
A handsome Johnny.
That's going to be our answer.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to give you one that might not pair so well with that, but maybe it will. I don't know. Mississippi mornings pair well with.
Walking the dogs. We have 3 dogs. 2 of them get to go. The old one could still go physically, but his manners are poor. But I have my spot on the screen porch, and I have my coffee. And then Teddy, the big one, at some point, he loses his patience, and he comes out and starts. And I surrender, and off we go.
How about finishing I remember everything pairs well with?
Thinking about your friends.
What about friendship that lasts a lifetime? What does that pair well with?
A life well lived, for sure.
This has been a really fun way to get to know you better and to learn more about the book. I think that we all can learn a lot from the characters in the book, and at least I could see myself sort of in each character, even though they were men, but I could certainly see myself feeling like Sam at certain times and understand that my career's been a little bit like his, but also the fun-loving Jeff side of things too. I could sort of see myself in that role as well, and I think most people reading the book will probably feel that. So it's been a good exploration for us, and that was one of the reasons we were excited to have you on the podcast, just because we're exploring these kind of things together at this time in our life.
Everyone pick up a copy of I Remember Everything. It's unforgettable and beautiful. You will remember this one.
And in our show notes, we're going to have links to Brooks' website. We're going to have some links to ways to purchase the book and his other books that you'll also enjoy reading for a lifetime. Thanks very much.
The content of this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. Always seek the advice of qualified professionals regarding any specific questions or concerns you may have.